Hi everyone, welcome again to my channel. So in this video, we will do a breakdown of the newest Alteration or Aberration character from the CN server, and her name is Fiona. So she has a benediction type of weapon, and both S ranks or 11.5 points for both shatter and energy charge, which is really good. However, for her stats being a defensive one, she has resistance and HP versus Lin, which has crit and HP. Okay, so let's first things first. She is the only one who has this unique alteration resonance. So basically, if you put her on the same lineup with Lin, you will trigger an increase of attack by 30% and altered resistance by 60%. So since we have a few alteration or aberration type weapons, so this will only activate if you have her with Lin in the same lineup. But first let's discuss about her kit. So let's start with her normal attack sequence while on the ground. That's it. It's a normal frost for the translation, but it might get changed in global. So while airborne, she does Dew Dance. So it's basically the same, just airborne. And she has this condensing ripple. This is the iconic from her previews. So anytime within her second attack, you can hold the attack button and she will do this. So it's a continuous barrage while airborne. So while recharging stamina, let's do her moon drop. So that's her moon drop, and then let's do crashing springs. Basically just this one, but yeah, when you hold her attack button again, then she will do her crashing springs. It's the same as condensing ripple, but just airborne. And since I don't have a teammate, she has this share, which is only activated when she has or you are under the benediction resonance, and she will link with a teammate. And first of all, the link teammate receives 50% increased healing from Luna stars, and the various effects will depend on the link teammate. If the teammate is using Fortitude Resonance, 50% of their resistance will be transferred to you. If the teammate is Balance Resonance or Attack Resonance, 20% of their attack, up to 20,000, will be added to yourself. And if that teammate is also under the Benediction Resonance, both of your healing will be increased by an additional 30%. Now, let's move on to her dodge skills. So, aside from the normal dodge from Fantasia, she has the Swift Step. So, this is the dodge with the directional button. Yeah, again. Also, she has another dodge which is called Geyser Swing, and it's the dodge without the directional button, so it's like this. Okay, now for her skills, this is what makes Fiona really unique, because she's the first character to has this feature wherein you can modify her build depending on the skills that you have selected for her. Let me show you. So under the skills tab for her weapon, there's this gear icon, and you can select any two of these 6 skills. So the explanation for this one is that the first skill you select has a specific buff, which I'll cover. So for the first one, by the way, her skill is firstly called Cascade. So she will release a tidal wave upon targets around you, and it has a passive dissipate wherein it carries on the effect of which of the weapon you have put first. So first I'll show you how Cascade looks like. Yeah, that's Cascade. Back to her kit. Right, so that's her main skill, and then you can equip up to two of these six choice skills. So I'll go over them one by one and explain them first. So the first skill is in the English translation is called Welling. So aside from the damage, it increases all elemental damage by 10% for 20 seconds with a cooldown of 14 seconds. The next one we have is Surge. So it summons water spouts and pulling nearby enemies, so sort of crowd control, and form a large tornado at the end. So it is a damage skill, and the damage is considered as discharge, so it will trigger discharge triggers from other effects. The third skill is called Wave Pressure. So it's a buff wherein you gain 60 weapon charge per second and increases your skill and discharge skill by 20% for 35 seconds. So when you use this skill, it's considered as using the discharge. And when you use Aqua Brilliance, which is Fiona's discharge, it refreshes the wave pressure cooldown. So they sort of synergize. Next we have is Vortex. So it is a buff for your final damage by 32% in the course of 10 seconds. So it's not immediately 32. It increases over 10 seconds to 32%. And the stack is not transferable, so when you switch weapons, the effects will be lost. Next we have Shackle. Shackle is you trap the target in a cage for 3 seconds and they cannot move or use skills. And it also reduces the target's resistance by 8% within 15 seconds. By the way, doesn't work on players in Apex Duel. And if, for example, your character is in the sea, the new map for version 2.4, on the way to Inners, so the shackle's resistance is doubled, so it's stronger while in the water. And lastly, we have Nourishing Spring. So this is more on it increases all elemental damage, but this is a factor of your max HP divided by this factor, 115,000%, and a maximum of 30%. However, in the case that your max HP for an HP built Wanderer exceeds 2.6 million, and then the elemental damage is increased by 25% for 20 seconds. So before I go over and show you the skills yet, I'm just going to talk about her discharge first. So her discharge is called Aqua Brilliance. So it removes all debuffs from the wielder, and it's your invincible or iframes during casting. And the effects are different also depending on the resonance that you are using for Fiona. So when under the balance or attack resonance, whenever your discharge hit an opponent, your attack will also be increased by 20% for 30 seconds. While using fortitude resonance, so your resistance is increased by 8% for 30 seconds and stacks up to 5 times. Also, if your HP falls below 30%, you receive an additional 80% damage reduction for 5 seconds, but it can only be triggered once every 60 seconds. So, sort of like a increased resistance grid. And lastly, when you are under the Benediction Resonance, the Aqua Brilliance gives you one use of Lunar Star's protection to all teammates. So it's 10 seconds and can block damage one time. So it's a one-time shield. And every time you use her Aqua Brilliance or her Discharge, it will increase their healing effects by 20%, and up to 40% subsist for over the course of 30 seconds. So those are for the skill description. So I'll discuss a bit of the first thing that makes Fiona unique. Remember, I mentioned there are 6 additional skills aside from Cascade. So here's the thing. So the first skill that you use, or the number 1 here that you select, its corresponding buff will apply to your skill, which is Cascade. And the second skill, if you've used it, is it's an extra skill. Basically, it's a free skill which persists even when you have switched weapons. So first, let me show you how. So first, this is Cascade, her skill, right? And then I have another skill, which is the Surging Waves. The second skill that you have equipped will persist even if you, let's say, in this case, I've switched to Icarus weapon, and the surge is still there, so I can still use it even when I'm on a different weapon. Okay, so one thing to note is that the good thing about changing Fiona's skills, because each of these skills has their own corresponding effects and buff. They will apply on the first skill, will apply on the passive of Cascade. For example, for this one, for the first, I selected Welling. By the way, its effect is increase elemental damage by 10% for 20 seconds. So if I show you this one, let me go back to Fiona again. If I use Surge, notice my buffs here. If I use Surge, there. So I have the Surge buff, or the Welling buff rather, for 20 seconds upon using her Cascade. So let's try by changing the equip skill. For example, let me try Wave Pressure as the first one, and I'll use the Cage as the second one. Alright, so first I'll use Cascade again, and it should give me the Wave Pressure buff, which increases my weapon charge. And there it is. So notice my energy bars are increasing by 60 per second. And the second skill becomes the Shackle. So first, let me use the Shackle on an enemy first. There, that's what it looks like. Right, and Fiona's Discharge is like this one. So she's invulnerable during that cast. So with this mechanic, you can basically mix and match her skills depending on which buff you like. And by the way, there's this handy feature wherein you can save setups, or 5 combinations of skills that you would like to use Fiona with. So the best way to do this is this makes Fiona super flexible, because you can customize the way how her kit works, and you can adapt to whatever lineups or whatever team comps you can use her. She can be a buffer for a physical or any type of weapon comp actually. And this freedom alone is really helpful in case of when you are doing harder contents and there's specific setup that is required for your team. So this is what makes Fiona's kit special, and the first character to be able to has this feature.